Hi, today we're going to talk about sublimation and we're going to look at it from various angles. I'm doing this in the context of me going through a period of sublimation with the fantasy novel that I've been writing and I still am writing in it. So first of all, what is sublimation? In a physics angle, it is the transformation of a solid directly into gas. So it doesn't go through the liquid form, it goes from solid to gas directly. And this happens when there is the right temperature and the right pressure, atmospheric pressure. It does not mean if another ingredient was added, substance, anything else, aside from temperature and pressure, that is no longer sublimation. That is a chemical reaction. Sublimation in physics happens only with a solid. They can go through all three states, solid, liquid, gas, but it goes straight to gas with the right temperature and the right pressure. In psychology, sublimation means the transformation of urges that are considered negative, challenging, too overpowering in ways or in outlets that are more creative and more beneficial. This is considered a defensive mechanism that is more mature and healthy. In a spiritual sense, this means an inner movement of one's energy in the sense that it refines, elevates, brings the inner self, the soul, to a higher frequency, resonance, a higher level of understanding. In a sexual understanding or context, this means expressing the sexual impulse in non-sexual activities that are considered more subtle, creative, transformative, inspirational, beneficial, constructive, and so on. This is sublimation. Now, why do people do it? Firstly and foremost, it can happen by instinct, by the conditions that are appropriate for it. Like it happens in nature. Solids will go directly to gas if the conditions are right, temperature and pressure. That is it. With the case of people, sublimation happens when something has matured. If it happens without intention, something has matured, has grown, has ripened inside the psyche of a human being, that the person can therefore sublimate an urge that would be otherwise considered not so constructive. When it is done intentional, that already means that there is a maturity of an individual and the individual perceives actual benefits from the sublimation. Okay, an individual has reached such a level of maturity that they will understand that instead of expressing anger in destructive means, for instance, it is much better to express it through sports, physical movement, creative movement in whatever kind, whether they're drawing, painting, singing, shouting, whatever. There is a saying that the first sign of civilization was when people began to swear, as opposed to beating, killing each other and so on. They just started to swear at one another. That was the first sign of civilization. In connection to the why, I'm also going to add this. People do it also because they have all the conditions. What I mean by this is that they have the inner peace, because it does take a lot of effort and time, so you need to be at peace to sustain this effort in the long run. They have the physical or material or financial means to do it, so they don't have to attend to daily chores, which also consume energy. And also, there is the time. They also have the time to do it. Sublimation is a process that takes time. Now, how do people do it? Well, essentially there are two ways. The first one is when it is forced. So it is imposed by an external force, an external person in the case of people, that is mature enough and wishes to impose this on a person that is not mature enough, but if they pressure them, push them from behind, ensure them all the conditions, then they will hopefully sublimate. Yes, it can happen, but there is, because this is pushed upon the individual, even though it's not abusive, there is a resistance inside, so there is a lower quality somehow of the result. The higher quality of the result comes when sublimation is intentional, okay? It's a choice. And that therefore means that something ripened inside the individual. So there is psychological maturity. And also related to the how, there is also the concentration or focus. There is the objective, because there's always a reason. You don't do sublimation just for the sake of it. There is something there, a search, a quest, a goal, something to reach, something to make happen, something to put forth that requires sublimation of all other instincts, urges, needs, and so on. Then there's obviously intention, attention, presence, sustained presence, so that's an intellectual effort. Skill, sometimes it's through singing, through writing, through painting, through dancing, so there's also skill involved, and definitely breathing. You have to sustain this. All the focus required needs to be sustained through breath, obviously, a certain rhythm, lower, not intense breath, not like a workout, a lower intensity level of breath, and to the minimum water, so hydration. All other things while this process is going on are usually put on hold. So nobody's doing workouts, nobody's eating that much, nobody's cooking, nobody's cleaning, nobody's paying bills, nobody's going outside to socialize. The person is focused only on their goal. It can be sustained, usually through a day at most. It requires rest, obviously. It can happen on a very short span of time, so one day, medium span of time, several days up to weeks, and a long span of time, we're talking months or sometimes years. This is how long sometimes it takes for a painter to put forth a painting, a writer to put forth a book, a dancer to put forth a new number, figure skaters, anybody that was sculptors, anybody that is creating something might take a longer period of time of, you guessed it, sublimation. This requires a detachment from day-to-day life. That's why sometimes artists seem a bit not quite there. They're really deep into their creation or creative process, and their intellect is focusing on bringing the refinement required up until that goal is reached. Process, product, result is put forth in a way that the person that sublimated, the creator, the generator of that, considers it optimal. Now, are there any practices in our community that can help us? The ones that are best fit for this are the call yourself back or bring yourself back to your life. I've put here 2 practices so far. There are also the lower intensity breaths, the healing breath. I usually also use that for focus, for concentration, for inspiration. But you need to understand that these practices are just the last ingredient in the other requirements. You have the means to do this, and there's the maturity and the intention. The practices here cannot substitute those 3. Okay? The means, the maturity, and the intention. So they can only complete those. It's the 4th ingredient. If you don't have those, but you just use the practices, at best they will bring you more calmness, more focus, which is still beneficial. It will help you in your day-to-day life. So, if you're going through a creative process right now and you want to sublimate, I hope that this information helps you. And I hope that the practices, you can do them even if for just 1 minute early in the morning, and then you get to your process. That's it. I wish you a beautiful day, and I will hear you with other practices. Bye.